Yeah, so you're John, as I
I am
mentioned
John.
previously before we got on with Hirst Brothers. And I feel like just kind of knowing everything that's going on for you guys, Hirst Brothers sounds more like a brand to me because it's like, and we're going to get into all these different things, all these different projects that you have. You guys, as the three brothers, have a podcast, use some other like philanthropic type ventures, and you also are putting out music, which is the main reason we're together here.
Yep.
So, John, thanks again for hopping on and doing this. What can you tell me about, I guess, first, this upcoming EP you have with your group, the Hirst Brothers?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. As always, it's very nice to meet you virtually. So Hirst Brothers, yeah, we are kind of a brand in some senses, or working on it at least. More of a like, one of our slogans for our videos is the Hirst Brothers, and then it's podcast, music, lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of into that whole scene. But what we're talking about today is music. So yeah, we have our first EP coming out February 1st, 2022. We're super excited about it because it's very different than what other people have been putting out. And it's very different for us. If you search us up on Spotify today, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 singles, but those were just kind of learning curves for us, learning how to mix, master, produce, record, all of that stuff in-house. But those were very like kind of rock style songs. Whereas this new EP that's coming out is much more authentic to the type of music that we not only like to listen to, but also like to produce and record and play live. So it's very funky with a little bit of hip hop, with a little bit of like live feel. It's very hard to explain and to put into a bucket.
Right. It's funny because you sent me a couple links before, so I listened to some of the tracks on the EP, and
Yep.
I think the main one or the lead single that you have right now is called Nah. And
Yep.
the first time I listened to that, I go, my God, they sound like the Beastie Boys to me. Would you say that's like what a fair comparison would be?
That's super cool. I have not heard that one yet. No, I like it though. I like it. Yeah. In some senses, yeah, for sure. Like you've got a lot of your traditional rock elements, and we kept that because we want to be able to play our music live. We love playing like live shows and performances. And so something that's fairly simple to play with just guitar, bass, drums, maybe a keyboard player, and then vocals. So, but then, yeah, you've got your like more, that's a big influence for me is it's like your 90s style hip hop rap. So yeah, cool. I can see the linkage. I haven't yet heard that, but I can see where you're coming from.
Right. What about you and your other brothers? Like they're not here on the show with us today, but you have two other brothers that are part of the group. Are all of you kind of in the same wheelhouse when it comes to musical influences?
Yeah, so I'll correct you a little bit there. So my one brother, Mark, it's basically Mark and I. We do have a third brother, Jake. He is not musically inclined and not necessarily part of the band or the podcast.
Okay.
But one of our good friends, Adam, is our drummer. So it is Hirst Brothers because a lot of it kind of comes from myself and then my brother Mark, and then our best friend Adam is the third man. But we've started doing the whole music because of our third brother Jake. So he is kind of included. He's part of the family. He's a Hirst brother. But yeah, musically, like we're all on the same page in the sense that we like the same music. And we all get pretty excited about what we're doing. We, like Mark and I have said before, we've never had disputes over how a song's going to go or what we want to put on an EP or not, or how we want to do things. But yeah, so yeah, we're all on the same wagon, that's for sure.
And you mentioned this before we started recording too, that it's been kind of tough for you to get back into the swing of things, specifically with putting out music, because your brother Mark has been super busy with his job. And I'm just curious, because like I said, like you have the podcast, you have music that you're putting out. You also do this, or have been doing this concert, I assume, for a while called the Hirst Brothers concert. How do you like find the time to balance all of this stuff? Because it sounds like a full-time gig, you know?
100%. Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish it was a full-time gig in the sense that I wish we got paid to do this because it would make things a little bit easier. But I've got a full-time job. Mark's a doctor. He works in a hospital. So we are very, very busy. We try to set aside time, like when I know Mark's off for a weekend and I'm off on weekends, we'll, crush 2 or 3 episodes of a podcast out in a day. I'm kind of the driving force behind a lot of the music.
Mhm.
So evening times for me is a lot of recording, mixing, mastering, going back and forth with Mark, getting him to record bass whenever he's free. And it's a lot. I mean, the digital world has made things a lot easier because we don't
Yep.
have to be together. We've done a lot of our podcast episodes virtually too, where Mark's in Ireland or he's in the States now, and I'm here just outside of Toronto. And so we can do it digitally, but yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part of everything, is just like staying committed to what you're doing and being able to make a schedule out of it and not fall behind. And like I mentioned earlier, we've fallen a little bit behind on our podcast, and it's unfortunate, but we can't also take it too seriously because it's mainly just for fun. So, if we have to take a month off, we take a month off.
Yeah, it's like I totally relate to that same concept where you wish all of these things that you're doing that you're really passionate about would pay the bills, but that's not always the case. So it's hard to stick with stuff, especially when life happens, like you said, Mark getting a busy job or you being in different locations. It's time consuming for sure, even just thinking about putting something together.
Totally. And I mean, music takes a long time too. The first 3 or 4 songs that we did was me really learning how to do it. And so that took some time, but it was very much like, yeah, okay, this is done. We'll put it out there. Great. Mm-hmm. And then reflecting a little bit on that and stepping back from it and being like, there's a lot that I would change with those earlier songs that we did. The quality's not there. It sounded very amateur. Mm-hmm. And so then it was back to the drawing board for me. How do I learn how to do these things properly? How do I, what type of gear do I need to get to make sure that I have the potential to make the highest quality sounding music as possible? Mm-hmm. And so we've taken our time with this EP. It's been a year. We started recording these songs a year ago, and it's only 4 songs, but it legitimately took us 8 or 9 months to feel like we're proud of it and we're happy to put it out.
Mm-hmm. And the other songs, based on the links that you sent me too, like I mentioned, we have Nah, there's this other song called Lakeside, there's Fresh, and there's Take the Dive. For me, when I first saw this track list, I was like, is there some kind of water complex you guys are playing with here? Because I was like, I'm thinking, you're by the lake, it's fresh water, fresh air, you're taking a dive, it feels like there's a theme going on here. Would you say that?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And if you look, like, our band logo is a guitar neck and an anchor bottom.
Okay.
And so our whole thing is very water themed or ocean themed, you could say, purely because we grew up going to a cottage by lake. Like, we grew up water skiing and boating and surfing, and anything around the water just really, really resonates with us. So it was kind of natural, if we're like, well, let's pick, like, what kind of a theme do we want to have? It was like, oh, it's got to be nautical. That's everything that we believe in and that we love. So yeah, great call.
Yeah, I love that. Was there anything else from your childhood, like growing up with your brothers, that kind of you see reflected in your music? Like, I would ask specifically anything with your parents, like, were they really big into music?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. So our parents are not musically inclined. But from a very young age, both Mark and I were in piano lessons. Mm-hmm. So it was just one of those things that I think my mom, when she was a child, she took piano lessons. She never stuck with it or did anything with it, but she just always thought, no, piano is really good. And it was great. And so we learned piano at a young age. We took piano lessons, and then I branched into guitar, and later on Mark got into bass, and they're very, very supportive now. Mm-hmm. So when we go up to our cottage regularly in the summer, and we have a huge friend group that comes with us, and we put on a concert every single time. Mm-hmm. And my parents love it. They're like, when are you playing music? When's the concert coming? So yeah, we have very supporting parents for live music, for sure. Albeit, like, the style of music that we're putting out right now is not necessarily my parents' favorite style. They're more of like your kind of country western classic rock type people. Gotcha. But yeah, they're super, super supportive with anything musically that we do. They just absolutely love it. So
Well, that's funny you mentioned that kind of country western style, because I think from listening to some of your earlier tracks that you put out last year in 2020, they had a little bit more of that type of style. Like you said, now you're transitioning to more of like a hip hop, classic rock, like alternative vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just, I don't want to say it was easier, but it was almost like your first few times writing a songs, you just kind of lean off of what you know and what you're a little bit more familiar with. So it was almost a comfort zone thing for us, or for me, in that sense of writing those songs. And then with the new stuff, it was more of like, okay, now we know what we're doing, so let's do what we want to do. I
Okay.
don't, you know what I mean? It was like I don't care to fit inside a box of, okay, this sounds like this person. It's just, let's just make music that we enjoy, that Mark and I enjoy. And that's what we've really tried to do with this.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the songs a little bit more specifically then. You know,
Great.
like I said, Nas kind of like the lead single off of it. What was like, I guess, why did you put that song out? Or like, why do you think you're pushing that one a little bit more over the other ones?
Okay, so it's not that we like that song any more than the other ones. It's
Mm-hmm.
more so the fact that when we got connected recently, or last summer, I would say, with an individual from the Toronto area. His name's Jesse Reed, amazing guy. And
Mm-hmm.
he has a business called Dropout Entertainment. And we reached out to him, and together we kind of collaborated on this project to film a music video.
Mm-hmm.
We had done one music video solo in the past ourselves, and we thought, this is great, but like we kind of need some help here if we're going to do it again, because we have all these great ideas and all this fun stuff we want to do. So Jesse got together with us, and we looked at the 4 songs that we had, and we knew the like 2 of the other ones. We were going to do Lakeside, which we really enjoy. However, it features an artist who lives in Texas. Shout out to
Oh,
Bread
I see.
Couch. Yeah, he's awesome. But we were like, dude, we'd love to do a music video, but it would be unfair to not do it with him. Maybe
Right.
one day we'll be able to get him here when travel's allowed and it's normal to do.
Right.
So that we're like, we'll put that one on hold. And then the other one we were going to do was Fresh, but Mark and I had this really great concept for Fresh that we thought, oh, we're going to tell this great story and kind of go along with the lyrics and what the song means. But in order to do that, we knew we wanted to film at our cottage, and we wanted to have our whole group of friends there. Like we wanted to have 30, 35, 40 people there, which again, last summer was kind of frowned upon here in Toronto.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, Nah is a great one because we can essentially do it with just the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can still tell a little bit of a story with it. It's kind of abstract. You got to watch it a few times and kind of think about what's being said and what you're seeing, and kind of draw some points yourself. But that was the reason why we decided to go with that one. And then obviously having the video already done when we're getting ready to launch, we're like, well, this has got to be the one that we lead with, because we're happy with the video and it looks really cool, and we thought that'd be really great for branding. And then maybe in early next year we'll be able to film videos for some of the other ones, and we've already got like another 3 or 4 songs that we're working on too. So there's lots in the hopper, but that was the main driving force for why we decided to kind of lead with Nah.
Gotcha. And I know you sent it to me directly, but I can't recall. Is it out on streaming services right now, or is it going to come out with the EP?
Yeah, no. So Nah is coming out December 20th.
Okay.
So I guess just about 3 weeks. 3 weeks in a little bit. So that'll hit your streaming platforms as a single first, and the video will go live on YouTube. And then I think Lakeside is going to come out mid-January as a single as well. We're trying to talk to Bread Couch and see if he's available to do some sort of cross promo in some way. And then the EP is coming out February 1st. So it's all kind of simultaneously 2 singles, the rest of them come out, and then it's all together.
Awesome. I'm curious to ask you about that collaboration working with Bread Couch. And I think a lot of artists too globally have just had to adjust to this lifestyle of collaborating virtually. So what was that whole experience like?
Yeah. So through our podcast, what we do is review 3 different indie songs per episode. We try to group them together into similar genres, so that if someone's listening and they like rock, you've got 3 indie rock songs to listen to. Mark and I spend like 30, 40 minutes kind of just talking and telling stories, and then we review these songs and we keep them all on our website. One of the, I want to say it was like episode 3 or 4, somehow Red Couch had submitted a song to us, and we put it on our podcast and we reviewed it, and we just immediately kind of fell for his vocal tone. Like he just has such a unique and cool voice, and I've been following him ever since. And so when we started doing our music and putting it together more, we just thought, you know, who would be really cool on this song would be Red Couch.
Yeah.
Like, I love his voice. He's just so unique and so cool. So I had reached out to him and I said, hey, we're working on a track. Are you interested? Basically free reign, like do whatever you want, write whatever you want. Like, I love what you do. So go nuts with it. So I sent him the track in kind of like a mix, like half done state, and said, have at it. And he sent me back his chorus. He wrote the chorus hook for it, and then he had a little rap part in the second verse. And I was just immediately like, oh yeah, this is perfect. Love it. So it was super, super easy working with him. He's great, and really quick. Like, I feel like he did it in like a week. He just wrote it, recorded it, sent it to us, and we we're like, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted.
That's awesome. But yeah.
It's very cool that we can even do that, right? Like, collaborate with artists that are 1,000 miles away. It's super neat.
It is really, really cool. And like you mentioned, I love how from your podcast, you essentially have this plethora of musicians to choose from if you ever wanted to do something like this again, you know?
Totally. And that's in the works. Like, we've spoken with numerous other artists that we've kind of like, after they're on our podcast, we start to follow their journey and we keep in touch, and we say, hey, if you have new music, let us know. We'll put it, like, we'll promote it if we can. And yeah, we've got tons, like over 60 artists that are just really, really good. And yeah, it's a great network to have, and it's awesome in that case. And I've spoken to some of them about featuring on some of our music, and we've started working with Forrest Dell. He's excellent voice, incredible singer, much better than me. We started working with him on a track, and we've got a few other people that we're interested to. So it's lots of fun nowadays. I could just send the stems to them and they can do their thing and send it back to me, and away we go.
Kind of thinking on like a bigger scale, and this might, no offense to anybody in your immediate network, but I'm curious to ask you, do you have any like dream collaborations?
Dream collaborations? Not, I mean, everybody in that we've met through the podcast would be super, super cool to collab with. Our dream to collaborators, and I'm going to say dream as like a more realistic than saying like, oh, I want a song with, you know, like Kanye West. Probably not going to happen. But there is a group that we actually had on our podcast. We've been huge fans of them forever. They're called No Suits. Brilliant artists. This group of guys from, I believe they're like LA or California, somewhere like that. And we've included them as a influence for our style of music, because they were one of the first groups that I had ever heard that had done your kind of traditional live music, like real guitar, real bass, but with your hip hop vocals. And as soon as we learned about them and we started listening to their music, it was like, well, I love rap. I grew up on hip hop and rap and playing guitar and playing your classic rock. So it was just like a natural blend after learning about them, being like, well, that's kind of we're not copying, but that's the route that we want to go. So yeah, I mean, if we could do a song with them, that'd be a dream collab for me.
Yeah.
And Mark.
Yeah, definitely. Give them a shout out while you're at it. Maybe they'll catch it.
Exactly. Yeah, they came on our podcast, which was great. It was super cool to meet them. So we're kind of like podcast friends now, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe if we get like a little better, maybe they'd consider doing it with us, but I think they're a couple leagues ahead of us. Like they're very, very talented.
That's awesome. That's good though, that you're kind of getting that exposure too. Like you're meeting these other artists that seem like have been in the game a little bit longer.
Exactly. I mean, I've been playing guitar my whole life. Like since I was super young, piano, got into guitar at like 10, 11, but recording and producing, I really only started in 2019, like the end of 2019. And I've taken it all on by myself. We do everything solo. We've had a little bit of help with some mixing stuff, but the actual recording and songwriting process, I'm very, very new to. So still learning, still watching YouTube videos on the daily, learning how to get better at it. And, you know, No Suits is a couple of years ahead of us. So.
What
We'll
would you
get there.
say you've really taken away from, I would estimate those 2 years now, like you said, 2019, when you really started getting into it. What have you learned
Mhm.
specifically with your music that you put out previously with the music you're putting out now? Like, how would you say your producing skills and mixing and all that stuff is really improved?
So there's numerous parts to it. One is your actual technical, like the gear that you have, the hardware and gear, which makes a big difference. You certainly don't need to have top of the line gear to make high quality music nowadays. But I think if you're using lower end gear, then you have to have the skills to make it sound high end.
Mm.
I then realized like I don't quite have the skills yet, so I did invest in some higher end equipment that makes it a lot easier for me to record.
Right.
So that helps a lot. But also just like knowledge and practice. It really is a practice thing. So it's every time you make a song, you learn little production tricks. You learn little, like your ears get slightly better at picking out different frequencies and carving high ends versus low ends on certain instruments. And it's all just practice. And you get so much better. And the first few, really didn't know what I was doing. Put it together, great, this sounds cool, put it out there. And then maybe it sounded good on my headphones. Then I go in my car to listen to it and I'm like, wow, this sounds terrible. What happened?
Yeah.
And so being able to translate from across devices is very, very hard. You can make a song that sounds great in your studio headphones or your studio monitors. And then when you go and you play it on an iPhone, it sounds like trash. So being able to translate across devices just really requires a good mix. And so I've gotten much, much better at that. Whereas even the latest single that we put out on Spotify last year, it was called Sweet Little Something, kind of like your typical rock pop style song. That was the first one that I did where I was like, oh, this one actually sounds decent across platforms. Like it always kind of sounds the same. It was the first like half decent mix that I made. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to just put another song out 3 months from now. I'm going to really, really, really take my time and just constantly tweak the next stuff until I feel like it's perfect or close to perfect. I'm still not happy with the 4 songs that we're putting out. I don't think they're perfect, but they're good enough for me to be like, let's move on so that I can practice with other stuff. And they sound good enough in my ears.
Right. We're talking about just being good enough here.
Yeah, that's it, right?
It's
good enough to be proud
battle.
of it.
Yeah, it's what's
Totally.
the expression? It's not a sprint it's not a marathon.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even top-notch recorders and producers, they you're never done. You never are like, yeah, that's it. It's perfect. You could always tweak it a little bit, but at some point you have to say, this is as good as this song's going to get. Let's put it out into the world and move on. And so that's where we're at now, where we think these 4 songs we're proud of, we're happy, we like them. Let's put them out there. And then the next stuff that's coming out after that will be hopefully even better.
I'm wondering now too, was it like you just had these 4 songs and you were just like, okay, we're going to put these out? Like it wasn't like a scenario where you recorded, mastered, wrote like a bunch and then scaled it down?
So yes and no. So Mark and I, like I said, when we do get together, we'll record a ton. Like we will just go, all right, let's make a song. And then we'll just really quickly in like an hour go, wow, we like this. This is cool. Didn't write anything to it. We just record the instruments. And then maybe we'll just go, okay, now let's do a podcast. And then when we're done, we'll go, wow, let's record another song. Let's just jam a little bit and see what happens. And so then I save all of those on my computer. I have like 20, 25 songs maybe that are really just half-baked ideas. And then I'll sit down and go, okay, now it's time to put some lyrics on stuff. So what do I like? And I'll start looking through the songs that we've done and go, oh, I really like this one. And I'll get creative that night. And I'll write lyrics, record, kind of start pushing like that song a little bit further into its development. And then we got to the point where we had 4 that we thought sounded really good. And we're like, yeah, we like these 4. Should we do 5? Should we do 4? Should we do like what? We're like, let's just stick with 4 and go with these 4. And then in the background, like I've got another 5 that are kind of half-baked right now. So, we could have done a 6-song EP. We could have done 7 or 8 if we wanted to. It just would have extended the amount of time that it took to actually launch it. So we thought 4 is manageable. Let's do 4. and then the next one, maybe we'll do a single after that, and then we'll work on putting another 5 together or something. I don't know, it's very random.
I think that's a pattern we're seeing more of, though, especially with the pandemic and quarantine. I think artists just kind of are adopting this trend of just putting stuff out when they want to, not when they're expected to.
Definitely. I think it depends where you're at in your career. So if you're like a really established musician, then I feel like you can afford to take your time and make something that's really polished, that you really like. You can make a big album, like even Adele, right? She hasn't put out music in like 4 or 5 years, and she just launched this album, and it's huge and it's great, and there's a ton of music on there. And that probably took her a long time to do, because she really wanted to make it perfect. But if you're an artist or you're an indie artist and you really want to get exposure and get out there and keep making music, we've learned even from some of the people in our network that you're better off doing kind of singles and smaller projects, because each single that you release has an opportunity to get on playlists and to get seen and to get heard and to give you exposure. And so if you just dump an album out there, you've got one chance of that album kind of blowing up per se. Whereas if you do 3 singles and then an album, each time you do a single, you've got a chance. So that was our idea. We were going to launch it as a 4-song EP first, and then we were like, you know what, let's do 2 singles and then the EP, because it gives us more of an opportunity for promo, gives us more of an opportunity to get on Spotify playlists, you know, to get stuck in the algorithm and all that good stuff. So
had you seen that happen with any of your previous singles?
Not really. Like, we did our one Sweet Little Something, and I think one of our other ones did fairly well on Spotify, where it just, and again, not even the greatest quality of music, but it just got into a couple of weird playlists, and then all of a sudden you got 10,000 streams, and you're like, oh, okay, that was cool. That kind of came out of nowhere. And even with Sweet Little Something, like, we didn't do anything. We didn't promote it on Instagram. We didn't have a network. We didn't get on podcasts. We just kind of uploaded it to Spotify, and we're like, cool, let's move on. And then that one did okay. And it was like, all right, well, maybe if we take some time and we actually like talk to people and engage with people and try to promote it a little bit, then maybe it'll do a bit better, which will give us some more momentum for the next stuff. So that's the idea. That's why we're here today. Or I'm here today. Exactly. Yeah. Meet new people, get in front of a new audience. It's lots of fun.
Exactly. I love exchanging audiences. It's great. What else could you tell us about the EP that you feel like we haven't touched upon yet? Like, there's 2 other tracks, Fresh and Take the Dive, that we haven't even attacked at all. Like, what do you think people can really take away from this? Like, this is your first EP as a group, so it's kind of a big stamp on the resume. Yeah. It's you know, with everything that we do, we try to be like as authentic as possible. So there's a lot of personal just struggles that are kind of very relatable in those songs. And I think it's very simple lyrics. Like, I didn't go overly complicated with things with a lot of crazy metaphors and crazy, like, what is the meaning of this song? It was just like really, really simple. Like, Fresh is about, you've met a girl or a significant other that you're really interested in, and they just make you want to look fresh. And everything is all just about like, how do I look better for this person? How do I feel better for this person? And that was Fresh. And, you know, and there's nothing, there's no hidden meanings to it. Take the Dive was kind of the opposite. And it was the sense of like, I'm going after this person that I'm really, really interested in. How do I convince them to take the dive on me? How do I get them to be interested and just fall for me because I've already fallen for them? And, you know, these are kind of really relatable and simple. There's no real hidden meanings in there. Lakeside is very much just, it talks about our cottage a lot. It's just more so about like sitting by a lake and how cool it feels to just be lakeside. And like, wouldn't it be nice if you could live that life all the time? Oh, totally.
And then Nah is our more controversial one, where it's like kind of a taking a stand against the way society is going with your like fakeness that you see on social media and like people just pretending to be somebody else to try and get clicks or likes or whatever. And we always said we're not really interested in that. Like, the Hirst Brothers are what they are. What you see on YouTube, Instagram, like, that's us. If you meet us in real life, that's us. That you what you see is what you get, and we refuse to be any different. We are wild and we are crazy. We do like outlandish stuff, but like, that's just genuinely who we are.
I was just gonna say that because I'm envisioning the album artwork too for the EP, which we haven't even mentioned the name, by the way. It's called Groove Town. Um,
Groove Town.
which is that's a fuck of a name. I love that. Like, what was the
Thank
inspiration
you.
behind that?
Well, okay, so I'll be honest with you. So we met through our podcast. We had a special guest on who's like one of the coolest guys that I've spoken with. He goes by Stony McBlaze.
Oh
He's
boy.
Yeah, he's actually quite famous on TikTok. He's like
Okay.
a snowboarder dude. He has like super long hair and he always wears tie-dye and stuff, and he just does these like reviews and he does commentary on stuff, and he has this really like ridiculous California accent. He does really well on TikTok.
Oh
And
boy.
so we had him on the podcast and he was hilarious. And then he really likes music too. So he said, "Hey, Stony, we don't know what to call our EP. Got any
Mhm.
ideas?" And he's like, "Send me the music." We sent it to him and he goes, "How about Groove Town?"
Mm.
Immediately, Mark and I were like, "That's it," because we grew up in Georgetown, which is commonly
Oh,
called
no
G Town.
kidding.
And we're like, Groove Town is another G Town. And we're like, perfect. That's it.
That's
Done.
awesome.
So
Wow.
Stony McBlaze named our album and we loved it. We're like, that's perfect.
Oh my God. I hope he gets credit somewhere on there,
He
like put his
does. He
name on there.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be shouting him out
That's
for
awesome.
sure. For
What
sure.
about the
Yeah.
actual like album
Yeah.
artwork itself? Like, what did you guys think of for that concept?
It's it honestly, like, that's just another one of those ridiculous things that Mark and
Mhm.
I and our drummer kind of put together. I want to say 2 summers ago when we started making music, we were like, "Oh, we gotta take some photos so that we have some stuff for Instagram and we have some stuff." And we're like, "What should we do?"
Yep.
And we have these like we just have ridiculous ideas. And at our cottage, we have a huge costume box of stuff. And we're like, so we took all these crazy photos throughout, just drinking beers and laughing our heads off, thinking, "Oh, this, it'd be funny if we did this." And
Mhm.
so one of them was, it'd be hilarious. Let's put on all our like high vis gear and all our like lumberjack stuff, because I used to work in the tree industry. So we're like, "Oh, yeah,
Right.
I've got all this stuff." And then I was like, maybe I'll be splitting a thing of wood, but instead of an axe, I'm holding my guitar.
Right.
And then we just we just set up a camera and took a bunch of shots, and a few of them turned out hilarious. And it was a no-brainer. It was like, well, that's an album cover one
It's
day. And
yeah,
then
it's
sure enough,
so oh my God, it's so wacky. That's how I would describe it.
and that was it too. It was like, well, it's authentic because that's us. Like, we
Mhm.
genuinely would do that anytime. It's not just for social media or whatever. It's like, yo, that's hilarious. Let's do something fun. But also it's eye-catching too, which I think is neat. Is like, we want to try and be a little bit different. I hate when you see an album cover and it's just
Mhm.
really, really plain and boring.
Mhm.
You're like, eh, nothing much to
Yeah.
this. But this one is a photo, which people don't really use too often. It's not edited. It's not photoshopped. It
Oh,
is like,
no way.
that's the photo. All I did was put our band logo and the title at the bottom. That's it.
That's awesome. And yeah, like you said, you kind of got to stand out these days. You got to do something that's going to catch people's attention.
For sure. For sure. Maybe somebody sees it and is like, "Oh, that's hilarious. Let me
Yeah.
listen to their music." And then they like it. So great.
There you go. There, it's all about the eye candy, my friend.
It's important.
Well, John, thank you so much for doing this. This has been great. Before I let you go and we wrap this up, why don't you let people know where they can find Hirst Brothers, listen to your music, check out your stuff that you got
Mm,
going on and all that good thing, all the good things you guys are doing.
yeah. Thank you so much. So if you want to check out our website, we're thehirstbrothers.com. So, and Hirst is HIRST. That's the right way to spell it. If you look at us on Instagram, we've got Hirst_brothers_music, which is just a really small account because we haven't done any work there. But then Hirst_brothers_podcast.
Mhm.
That's where you'll find all of our ridiculous podcast clips. And we do like a little bit of promo there because we have a bigger audience.
Mhm.
It's not big, but we just have more followers on that side. Really, that's it. Yeah, if you Spotify, Apple Music, Hirst Brothers, again, our first single "Nah" is coming out on December 20th.
Mhm.
Check us out on YouTube too, because the music video is pretty funny. And then, yeah, come February 1st, the full EP will be out. That's basically it. That's plugging the stuff. That's all I've
Good
got.
plug. Good plug. Awesome, man. Well, thank
Thank
you
you.
again for coming on. I appreciate it.